You're listening to Ideal Practice, episode number 159. Today, guys, with my guest, Rosanne Carter, we're going to talk about how quickly you can actually develop a six-figure practice when you are crystal clear about what your passion is and how you want to serve people. But what we're really going to dive into is the importance of understanding and learning how to regulate your own nervous system. Who knew how important this was to your success as a practice owner? Turns out there's more to it than I realized. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my six-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. This is Wendy Pitts-Reeves, your host, and I am so happy to be hanging out with you guys today. This was a fun conversation. I am so thrilled to introduce you to one of my favorite former students. Today you get to meet Rosanne Carter. Rosanne is a psychotherapist in the Pacific Northwest who has been just a rock star in the making from the moment I met her, and it has been so much fun to watch her grow and evolve in the time that I've known her. You're going to hear a lot about that in today's conversation. Rosanne is the founder of Kavana Consulting. She is an infant and early childhood mental health therapist with over 20 years of experience. You'll hear a little bit about that. As a hard of hearing clinician herself, raised by deaf parents, she brings a special kind of insight into communication and culture and nervous system dynamics. This is really critical. Grounded in neuroscience, attachment, and polyvagal theory, she supports families and professionals in lots of cool ways in building a nervous system that works for you, nervous system awareness and co-regulation skills. Rosanne specializes in translating research into practical tools that can strengthen your connection and resilience in all kinds of ways. I'll just say that. She will tell you that her work is rooted in her belief that understanding our nervous system truly transforms relationships and is the best way to foster meaningful and lasting change. What I want you to know is that I very purposely wanted you to understand how Rosanne's passion for nervous system co-regulation and understanding all that that brings to the fore, that her passion for that has helped her reach a level of success very early in her private practice journey in a way that I think you can learn from and be inspired by. But I also wanted to talk about nervous system co-regulation because she's right. Once you have that figured out, so many other parts of your practice, and dare I say the rest of your life, are going to be easier to manage, be more fulfilling, more connected, more grounded, just better. So we're going to talk about both of those things. And I encourage you to stay all the way through the interview because there are just lots and lots of juicy moments in here where I think you're going to see yourself in the mirror, so to speak, and you are going to benefit from the wisdom that Rosanne has to share. So I know I did. And I know you will as well. So without further ado, let's get in to the interview. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. I'm so excited to be hanging out today with one of my favorite people on the planet. You get to meet Rosanne Carter. Rosanne, say hi.
Hello. Good morning.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here.
It is. I am so happy to have you here today because I have had the pleasure of knowing you and watching you work for a few years now, and I have seen so much growth in you from the time that we first met what, 3 years ago now, I think, give or take, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, time's running together. And I have been wanting to bring you on the program for a long time to share with people a little bit about the story of your practice because it has been such a powerful evolution. And then a lot about the concept of nervous system co-regulation, which is, I know, a subject that's near and dear to your heart. Let's start by just tell people a little bit. I love this question. Tell everybody where you are and who do you serve and how do you serve them?
Okay. Well, it's first of all really exciting to be here. Um, I am in Snohomish, Washington. For those of you that don't know where that is in Washington, it's about 40 miles from Seattle.
Right.
And
Yeah.
well, it's
That's a
been a
loaded
while.
question right off the bat. Who do you serve?
Who do I serve?
Right off the
So
bat.
I serve parents and children,
Mhm.
aged like birth to 10. And I also serve early support professionals. Early support meaning many people know that as early intervention. So speech therapists, physical therapists, educators, family resource coordinators, occupational therapists. So people who work in that birth to 3 arena. I also serve basically any professional that works with children and families. So that can also
Okay.
include educators, attorneys, social workers, and child welfare,
Mm, mm.
private practice therapists. Uh, yeah,
Really wide range,
a wide range.
but all focused on either families and parents of kids, little kids, like you said, birth to age 10, or those who serve them, which is a beautiful community and a big community. I love that. And just out of curiosity, like I feel like I know this, but I don't know. I'm afraid to guess. Tell me, how long have you been doing this kind of work, and how long have you been in private practice?
Um, okay, well, been in private practice for actually next month will be 3 years.
3 years.
3 years,
Boom.
not very
Yeah.
long. Doing this kind of work in this capacity in various forms for 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, it's longer than I was thinking. Okay,
Yeah.
a long time. So, and have you always been in that area, in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle area, in your
Yeah.
career? Yeah.
Yeah. That's where it
Okay.
started. I'm from Chicago originally and ended up moving here in 1999 to do an internship that I thought was going to be 3 months. And then you know, here I am.
And the rest, as they say, is history. So I
Yeah.
was curious about that because one of the things that that's given you is you have a very deep history with this population, and you probably have a very extended network of colleagues, professionals that you've worked with over the years, right? You've been there a long time, so you know people, right? But you're new to private practice, and this is something I kind of want to point out here that in a very short time, you went from a brand spanking new practice to a six-figure practice, like in a really, really short time, if I remember this right.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I did an IP 360 assessment with you. It's the first time we connected, which y'all, those of you who have followed the program, you will often hear me talk about the IP 360 scorecard, which is kind of a quick overview of the 7 pillars and how they apply to your practice and where you are. And Rosanne, you took me up on that, and we did a conversation about that. And I thought that was it. It was a lovely conversation. Here's some things you could do. Goodbye, good luck. And you turned around and called me back and I think I want to work with you, and we took off from there. And you were really quite new at it right then, but
Yeah.
I want to dive into your area of specialty, which is nervous system co-regulation. I really want to dig into that. But I want to set the stage by talking about how this has impacted your practice and what you have learned as a practice owner over the last few years. Can you just sort of give everybody a little bit of an overview of what you see as sort of the process of growth and understanding that you have been through as a practice owner?
Yeah. I think maybe some context might be helpful because I
Yeah.
arrived to private practice from a place of burnout.
Mm,
And burnout, not obviously not in private practice, but from, agency work. And
yeah.
so from the time that I left to the time that I started, which isn't very long, probably about 6 months, had to do a bit of soul searching, a little bit of
Mm.
like, what happened? How did I get to the place of burnout? And how did I
Wow.
not know? Like, where did it come from? And so that really is when I did my own nervous system work. I've always
Mm.
had it in the back of my mind, and I've supported families and professionals and the idea of regulation, but I never really did the work myself. And so when I did the work myself, then I really was able to kind of uncover all the ways that I was overriding my nervous system,
Ah.
both as a therapist, as a manager at the time, as a parent, as a
Mm.
wife, all the different hats that I wear, that we
Yeah.
all wear. And so when I started private practice, that really, even though I've been doing this work for a long time, it really is when I started to make it a big part of my work,
Hmm.
not just as a therapist, as a practice owner, also with everyone that I interact with.
Hmm. Well, I love the idea. I mean, context is right. You're right. That's a really good thing to talk about. So, the burnout set the stage for the type of practice that you wanted to grow, I'm thinking, in a way.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let me just ask this. Had you always planned to do a private practice, or was that kind of a whole new idea to even think about going there?
No, that was the last thing I said I would do.
Yeah, me too. That's what I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah.
No, right.
Yeah.
I don't want the responsibility. I don't want
Yeah.
any of that.
Yeah.
And what I came to realize that burnout was the culmination of not listening, not
Mm.
dialing in, not being attuned to myself. I take great pride in being attuned to other people and
Yeah.
being able to be with and be present, but I wasn't doing it with myself.
Yeah.
So when I kind of dived into this idea of, I could do something myself and really do the work and really create a practice that's in alignment and attuned to who I am and how freeing that be. So that was the idea
Wow.
that I started with. It wasn't really about financial growth at the
Mm.
time. At the time, it was about being in alignment because I'd been out of alignment for so long.
I love that. And what a beautiful way to approach starting a practice, starting a business. I mean, that is the definition of an ideal practice. I want to create a business that is in alignment with who I am and with my energy and what matters to me. Is there anything in particular that in the early days that you were conscious of? This is what I did in my agency work. I'm not going to do that here. Here's where I overrode my own internal systems in my job, my job, and I'm not going to do that here. Does anything in particular kind of stand out that you remember in the beginning?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is saying yes to everything.
Mm.
Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll see you. Yes, 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 yes. So one of the first things I did, and I remember talking to you about this, was this idea of slowing down my yeses and speeding up my
Mm.
nos so
Mm.
that I really got intentional about what is in alignment, what is a yes, what is a full embodied yes,
Yeah.
and what's a no, what feels like a no. Because I actually didn't know what a no felt like,
Wow.
right? And
Yeah.
so now, I mean, 3 years in, a no is so clear. I don't really have to take time to think about it because it is
You
clear.
know.
I
Yeah, you
know. I
feel it.
know.
You feel it
Yeah.
in your body now, don't you?
I feel it. Mhm.
Yeah. How has that played out in the evolution of your practice? What stands out to you? Talk to me about that, how that has played out as your practice has evolved.
Yeah, I think, well, first with families, because that feels like the easiest to talk about, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Not saying yes to every family because I can't help everybody, right? I have an expertise and experience that I want to bring, and that experience and what families are looking for needs to be in alignment. So, a big part of my practice is that parents are part of the work.
Mm.
And often, families and parents looking for therapy for their children want children just to be part of the work.
Right.
So I get a lot of calls and a lot of families looking for that. And my first conversation that I have is about, well, one, here's how I work.
Mm.
Parents are part of the work. What that means, what that looks like is, hey, we talk about regulation, we talk about your nervous system, we talk about
Mm.
how, what's that like for you to be present with your child, big emotions and big feelings and big behaviors,
Mm.
right? And so often that kind of gets people going, oh, either, yeah, wow, yeah,
Yeah.
I need this, or nope.
Yep.
And and that's okay. And that feels
Mm-hmm.
really good for them and feels really good for me because it's a clear, no, this is not a good fit. And then I pass them on to somebody who's a better fit.
And did you start there, or is that something you've had to grow into to get comfortable with that?
I grew into that.
Okay.
Grew into that. It didn't
Yeah.
take long though. I initially was like, oh, I knew that I started with parents were part of the work. I had to really think about right fit. So
Yeah.
not all children are the right fit.
So, guys, I want to put a pin in this for a moment. Like, this is something I want to highlight. What Rosanne is telling you is that she started off from a place of burnout. That's super important to notice. And I'm curious, actually, how many of those who are listening, I'd love to know how many of you guys started a practice because you were completely fried at your job. People go into practice for different reasons. Sometimes we are running away from something or moving away from something rather than towards something. I was just trying to find a part-time job so I could be a mom. Like, that's what I was trying to do. But if you're from the very beginning, your premise is, I need to be careful and protect my energy, right? And then, of course, what happens when we get into practice, we kind of want to see everybody because we want to help everybody and because we want to make the money, right? Every hour counts, right? So one of the very first lessons or places where you grew into as a leader of your practice was learning how to say no to clients who were not ideal for the kind of work you do. And y'all, I really want to notice what Rosanne said. This is how I work. Those 5 words are some of the most important words you can say to a client or a potential client up front. And if you are not turning some people off, if some people are not self-selecting out, then I would say that your message isn't clear enough and you're not clear enough about who you work with, who you work best with, or who you want to serve. Because when you're good at this and you're clear about it, there will be people that you are not right for, and you'll know it and they'll know it. So this is great. I love that, Rosie. What other lessons have you kind of had to grow into as you were figuring stuff out over the last few years?
It's trusting myself and allowing myself to fall, make mistakes,
Mm,
and trying something different, right?
yeah.
It came from a place where it was systems, right? It came from system work. And oftentimes there's not a lot of room for creativity and movement and alignment. My passion and vision really was in alignment. And there were lots of spaces where I couldn't move. And so being able to move into a practice where there was so much space, I had to
Mm,
learn how to use the space and not
mm,
stuck or in like this one pathway of, well, I can't do this because, or it's not how I'm supposed to do it, or someone else is doing it this way, so I have to do it that way. Like it really was getting used to the idea of spaciousness and movement. And I have all this space. I'm not stuck.
and now what do I do?
And now what do I do? Yeah. Yeah. And
Oh,
I think that's
yeah.
when I found you. I mean, I think that's what drew me to you was needing to learn and practice this idea of, well, what does it mean to own my space? Not just the
Mm,
physical space, but
the soul of your business.
yes, the soul of my business. Because I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. What a powerful observation. I love this. So I have not actually thought of this myself. You've just brought something new to me. When we work for somebody else, you work in a hospital, an agency, a clinic, somebody else sets the rules, Somebody else designs the process. Someone else sets the boundaries. You have control of your piece of that, of course, inside that system. But you're right, you're fairly constrained. Another thing that draws us to private practice is I want to do things my way. And that can be both a curse and a blessing, because when you can do anything you want, you can do anything you want. What do you want? And what do you do now? If you can literally do anything, it makes me think about the difference between McDonald's and a Chinese restaurant. I go to McDonald's, I know exactly what I'm going to get. Number whatever. It's a very limited menu. You order the same thing. You go to a Chinese restaurant, there's 10 pages worth of menus and they all sound exactly the same. And good Lord, I don't know what I want. Sometimes a lot of freedom is its own challenge to handle, right? And how do you carve out your path? How do you determine your own systems, your own structure? And where do you end up find the balance in terms of creativity and all of that when it's all up to you? That is a completely different place, isn't it? I don't know if that's where you meant to go with that, but that's what I got out of that.
Oh, yeah, it is. Completely different place. And it's a completely different way of thinking. It's liberating and empowering. And what do I do with it?
Right, right. One of the first things I remember you doing was pretty soon after we started working together, you got an invitation. I think it's from your county government, but I'm not sure about that, to come in and do a training with a couple of different constituencies, different groups who worked with children. Am I remember this right? Like they wanted you to do like a half day training or maybe 3 or 4 days. I've forgotten what it was, but it was some kind of a group work. And one of the first things we did was talk about how to put together an offer, how to price yourself, how to approach them, how to negotiate, what that contract would mean. And it was completely new. You'd never done anything like that before. And now you're an old hand at that. You've gone way beyond where you and I started. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So what you're bringing in is another part of my practice, right? So the other part of my practice, and I think it kind of touches on what you were talking about, just the networking, the deep network that I have from the years of work I've done prior to private practice. So so a couple different counties had contracted me for work. Some of them were, training. Some of them were intentional for a specific group of people. I'm still doing that. I'm still contracting with those counties, and every piece of the work is different, right? So most of those contracts they're part of systems work, and that's kind of, this is what we have to offer. Do you want to take it or not? And then there's some parts of the work where, in fact, that's what you're talking about, where they had asked me to come up with an offer.
Yeah.
And so I still do both of those. And but now the reach has gone to schools, educators, and different systems. And so practicing this idea of proposing, hey, here's what I have to offer. Here's what the price is. And you and I worked a lot on tiers, right? Here's one offer. But then here's A, here's B, and here's C.
Right.
Which one of that fits for you? And oftentimes they choose an offer, and oftentimes they come back with their own. And so again, that's the piece where I can lean in. Is this a full embodied yes, or is it a no?
Is this a full embodied yes?
A full embodied yes, right? And that somatic practice for me has made a big difference in what I choose to do and what feels aligned with what I'm and how I'm hoping to serve.
Yeah. You've had people come to you. You are in demand because you were already known to some extent and because you have delivered so spectacularly. People clearly want what you have. But are you approaching people and saying, I could help you? Would you be interested in doing some collaboration, or I could come and serve? Are you doing that yourself now?
So a colleague and I are approaching, right now we haven't approached public schools yet. They're more like early childhood centers where we're approaching them and supporting them with trainings around their own regulation.
Yeah.
Teachers are the biggest asset for children and this world. and also it's a very high burnout field. And so we're approaching different early childhood centers with this idea of, hey, how can we support you? We want to support your teachers with helping them understand their
Yeah.
nervous system, their regulation, so that they can support kids with theirs.
Yeah. Yeah. You're burnout proofing people. Burnout proofing.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
the other part of my practice, which is reflective practice.
Oh, yeah. We haven't even talked about that.
I haven't talked about that yet. So that is how I support early support professionals, attorneys, social workers, private therapists with reflective practice or reflective consultation. That people use those two different words interchangeably, but that's an approach that provides a safe, co-created, collaborative space for early childhood professionals who work with children to process their experiences, to explore emotions that are coming up for them, gain new perspectives on their work with children, with family. It really supports the emotional well-being, professional growth, and the development of their own best practices. So this reflective practice work supports their nervous system, their regulation. And that for me really is, well, what I hope to be burnout proofing.
Absolutely. So this is interesting. As people who are listening to you, I'm thinking they're going to be like, what? You do what? And what? And what? And what? So there are different buckets in your practice, right?
Yeah.
Like you work with kids and families, you work with all these different young professionals in various settings. You have led workshops, you've led retreats, you've been approached to run a pilot project, I think, if I remember right? You've done some stuff with colleagues where you put a small group together and y'all approach somebody, or you've also done things solo on your own. Along the way, how comfortable have you gotten with owning the value that you bring to the table and being comfortable with the pricing structure or the investment level that you are offering them? Because when we talk about tiers, y'all, she's talking about different levels of investment. You know, if you pay me this amount, here's what you get. Pay me this amount, here's what you get. And I would never say that language. I would say for this level of investment, here's the service that you get. Here's the value I can bring. But how for you personally, how has that changed, if at all? I don't know. Where are you at with that internally in terms of owning your value and stating your, like just kind of talking with people about the financial side of things?
Yeah, that was a journey in the beginning. It was really uncomfortable to price things because as a therapist, I'll speak for myself internally, like I just want to help people.
I just want to help people.
I just want to help people. And, I started out in agency work. So there's not a lot of pay in that. There's a lot of feel good in it. And that internal mindset really stayed. And so when I shifted into private practice, I still had this thought, I want to help people. Pricing that was tricky.
Yeah.
And when I came from an agency where people didn't have to pay for me, right? I could see anybody and everybody who wanted and needed my support.
Well, the money relationship was invisible. It was there, but
Yeah,
it was filtered through other people, so you didn't have to face it or deal with it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So now I had to put a price tag at what I was offering when I never had to do that before.
Mm-hmm.
So from the time I started, which felt kind of a little bit uncomfortable, to now I feel very much more comfortable and in alignment. I've been able to increase my my hourly rate for families 2 times in 3 years. And it feels good.
And each time it was a little scary in the moment.
It was
And it
like,
was
are they
like,
going to stay? Are they going to leave? And they all stay.
they
They
all
all,
stay. Yeah.
and so that felt good. And
And y'all, they stay because it's not about the money. It is, and it isn't. They stay because it's about the value. They stay because Roseanne's making a difference for them. And we will find a way to invest in the things that work, right? When it matters. So I just want to highlight that because it's something that we forget sometime, right? So as you have gotten more comfortable assigning a numerical value, a financial value to the work that you bring, your clients have just gone right along with you because they see it the same way.
Yeah.
And isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely? Yeah. But you've also branched out so much that you now have multiple streams of revenue from different sources, which has also been lovely. And who you really want to focus on has changed a little bit. Like you're loving the work with other colleagues. So you're really leaning into that more and more because which is also expanding your impact, right? It's one to many
Yeah.
in it's leveraging the impact in such a bigger way. I feel like I've watched you get much more comfortable with this over time. When I go back to where we started and where you are now, I'm like, you don't even blink today, right? Yeah, of course that's what I charge. Why wouldn't I? Or this is
Yeah.
what this contract's going to bring in, and like, yeah, it's great. And I don't see you stressing over it anymore or anxious. You don't worry about it at all. Now you're focusing about, am I serving who I want to serve and doing it the way I want to do it? The thing that ties all of this together, y'all, is that Rosanne is very, very clear about this core concept of nervous system regulation that made such a difference for her personally. And reflective practice involves some of this too. She has different modalities. You can talk about what they are. She has different approaches, different avenues to get there. But the theme that ties all of it together is when I'm better, my kids are better. When I'm better, my classroom is better. When I'm better, my family runs better. When I'm better, my practice runs better. Right? Yeah, she's nodding her head big time. So you haven't got this really super narrow niche. You have a passion about something you think makes things better, and you are finding ways to touch that in all different kinds of communities, which I relate to. Like I've done 1,000 different things in my life, and the theme that ties everything that I have ever done together is I am all about helping people take big action that is brave. And letting them see what they are capable of when they are not sure of it, especially with women. I've always done that, women and girls. So once you realize what you are passionate about, and like, this really is what works, this is what I care about, there's lots of ways to make money and lots of ways to make a difference, which is what you're doing. All right, introduce us to nervous system co-regulation. Tell us about some of the methods that you are so in love with and that you teach and share, and tell us how we need this in our practice.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm
Ooh,
so excited for this one. I know. So how do
that
I
was
want to do
that
this?
was a like, ooh, juicy, ooh.
I know. Um, I want to be mindful that this language could be new for people. I, uh, so I'm just holding that in mind as I kind of go in. So when I think about nervous system work, really what I'm talking about is we're thinking about our window of tolerance, right? And our window of tolerance was coined by Dr. Dan Siegel. He's a child psychologist, but he coined this term, and he has a lovely diagram that you can look up on Google. Window of tolerance, that's what you look at. But basically, what the window of tolerance talks about is this idea that we all strive to be in our window. So if you imagine a window, that's your ideal space to be. It means you feel connected, you feel at ease, you are able to lean into curiosity, connection, and compassion for others. When we can lean into those things, we're in our window because we have capacity to do that. All of us move in and out of our window. So as you move out of your window, you're moving into activated states. And those are words that we know that are fight, flight, freeze, right? So activated states, many different people have different analogies for that. But activated states might look like, as a professional, um, overwhelmed, maybe more anxious, racing thought, maybe or our tolerance for things or our threshold is a little bit more narrow. The way it shows up in parenting, we might yell more. We have a tone. Our capacity for children is less,
Yeah.
right? For professionals, same thing. Capacity for the work is less. So that can live in that fight flight. And the freeze, that's also activation. That's shutdown. That is where brain fog lives. That's
Mm.
where you're not motivated anymore. That's where you're really tired. That's where decision making gets really hard.
Mm.
That is where
Mm.
it's really hard to move. You feel stuck. Then we have like these also outskirts of activation known as fawn and duck. So fawning is known as people pleasing.
Okay.
So that is uh, a big one for me that I think about when I say yes, 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 right?
Mm.
When I say yes, prior to my private practice, what was that about? And
Yeah.
if I reflect on that, a lot of those yeses were to prove something, to
Mm-hmm.
show that I can do this work, that I can take on more, that I can do more,
I can
that I can
handle it.
fix faster, know more,
Yeah.
that I know. And so there was a lot of proving in that, but that's so deeply connected to this fawning in my nervous system. Is learned over lived experience and learned behavior that if I please someone at by self-abandoning my own needs,
Mm.
I'm getting something from that. I'm getting praise, I'm getting reward, I'm getting fulfillment. Wow, you're so amazing at what you do,
Yeah.
right? That
No,
feels good.
no one can help me like you.
Right.
Right. Right.
That feels good. So I say yes and yes.
Yeah.
That all comes back to the nervous system because that feeling of feeling good for a moment brings me back to my window. This sense of
Mm-hmm.
ease and safety, and I feel connected and I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious. But it doesn't stay there very long because now I've said
Mm-hmm.
yes to so many things, I'm actually really tired, right? And then there's the duck. The duck, if you imagine when you see a duck in the pond, a duck looks really lovely and peaceful on the water, but if you look underneath the water, the duck's feet are like there's
Oh, you're saying
funny, but
duck. I heard
duck.
deck.
Oh, duck. Sorry, yeah, duck.
Okay.
The feet are paddling really fast. And so that nervous system state is often everything is fine on the outside, but I'm
Uh,
really spinning on the inside.
okay.
So
Interesting.
the nervous system work is so deeply important to me as I work with professionals and parents and everybody, really, because it really comes back to when are you at ease? When are you in your window? What does that feel like? How do you know
Mm.
you're there? Because when we're in activated states, it's really hard to stay curious, to stay compassionate, and to stay connected to other people because you really can't be in both places at the same time.
Interesting. I'm hearing that as presence, that when you are in the window of tolerance, I haven't heard that term before. This is new to me. That when you are in that window, you are able to be fully present with someone,
Yes.
right? Fully present to the moment.
Yes. And the way that we can be fully present is if our body, our nervous system, our brain experiences safety.
Yeah.
So, safety, most people, when they think of safety, they think of physical safety, but so much of safety is emotional safety, right? And
Mm-hmm.
our brain works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to protect us. It's always scanning for threat and danger. For some of us, if we're thinking about private practice, threat might be increasing rate. It might be marketing. It might,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, finding spaces to rent or networking. Those threats can stop us from doing the work because we're activated. And so oftentimes I remember at the beginning of my practice, a lot of that was really overwhelming. And so instead of being in this space in my window where I can get things moving, I was shut down. So I didn't do anything at all. Right. And so that, I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
is how I kind of got to you. It was like, I need someone to help
Mm.
me move out of that shutdown state because I don't
Mm-hmm.
really know what's next.
And to calm the fear down so you
Yeah.
can think, right? Which is co regulation.
Yes.
Right?
A
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what I got from you and
Mm.
the mastermind, was there was so much co-regulating happening. So that's why
Mm.
co-regulation, regulation, this work is everybody's work.
It's so true. This is lovely. I love this. I had not heard fawn and duck before. That's very funny. Um, of course, I mean, these basic concepts I understand. I'm thinking about it as a clinician.
Yeah.
The times that we are with a client and we have no idea what to do, or if you're with a client and you're being triggered in a big way, in today's world, because there's so much antagonism in our culture right now, you may find clients that you're working with who have very different points of view than you that can stir up stuff. Or if you're working in trauma work, you may be, I mean, there's like lots of ways in our kind of work where you have to sit in the room with someone and hold space for somebody that takes everything you have, right? To do that, just
Yeah.
as a clinician, as a healer, much less as a practice owner. This comes back to where I always say money is a therapeutic issue. When you are running a practice, you're not just a clinician, you're a business owner, and those two roles come together in the consultation room with your clients. And of course, that's a recipe for stirring up lots of dysregulation, right?
Yeah.
Fear, discomfort, anxiety. People are afraid if I raise my prices, I'll lose clients. If I market, people will think I think I'm all that. I don't want to talk about me. Like all the things that we are challenged in our profession, we are told to stay quiet, be in the background, play. It's not about you, blah, blah, blah. And yet when you own a practice, it kind of is about you. It needs to be about you on some level. That stirs up all kinds of stuff, which will push us out of the window of tolerance. Am I
Yeah.
right? Am I getting this right? Okay. Love that. And seeing that you were especially sensitive to this, having come from a burnout situation. Like, wow. So you've done a lot at this point. You've done a lot of consulting with colleagues, with people in various aspects of mental health work. What would you say is the most common when folks are activated? How do you see that playing out most often? Where do they tend to go, and what does it look like when people are activated?
Yeah, that's a great question. So most people that I see often have clients back to back to back.
Yeah.
And a lot of their work is co-regulation. And although for many of them, they hadn't seen it that way, like it's a reframe for them once
Yeah.
we talk about how exhausting the work is. The way that I notice that it plays out for many of them is a new term that I'll bring in called functional freeze, is that they're really good at their jobs all day long. They do what they need to do. They're supporting family after family, parent after parent, child after child. And when they get home, their nervous system says, all right, we're shutting down now.
Mm.
So you're functional throughout the day. And then when you get home, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
And then that's a freeze pattern that many people talk about, which is I can't move from the couch. I'm just scrolling on my phone. I'm binging on TV. I'm just having cereal for dinner. It's that kind of frozen state of I can't do anything else. And the reframe of that is wow, your nervous system working so hard to protect you and conserve your energy so that you can do this work again tomorrow. And then the
Yeah.
next day and the next day. Now, none of those things are bad. It's not about good or bad or right or wrong. It's really about noticing, is this a pattern that's happening daily? And
As you're saying this, people are listening to this going, oh my gosh, how does she know?
yeah,
How does she know? Have you been in my living room? Are you watching me at night? How do you know? Because I know that this happens too. When I ran a group practice, I had practitioners who would see 10 people in a row with no real break. They would cram down something to eat in the 10 minutes between people in the middle of the day, like 7 a.m., 8 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, back to back to back to back to back. Either because they loved their clients and felt I can't say no to them because they need this. It's my people need me. I have to be there for them. or because I need the money, or I can't afford to, I can't risk missing this hour, because of life circumstances, all of which were legitimate. Nothing, I mean, it was all legit. It was real. They really did need the money, or the clients really did need them. But talk about a recipe for burnout. So this whole sort of crashing at night, functional freeze is a great phrase. I get that. It's what we go home at night and we're sort of brain dead. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing
Yeah.
left.
Yeah. Nothing left.
And I think many of us can connect with that feeling of there's nothing, I have nothing left to give.
Yes.
And if you're a therapist who's also a parent, it's really hard when you have kids and you have nothing left. And the idea of freezing, again, is your nervous system way of protecting you, is this idea of conserving energy so you can do more.
Yeah. I was just thinking, if you're a therapist who has children, if you're a therapist who has a difficult marriage, if you're a therapist who's taking care of elderly parents, if you're a therapist who has anything else in your life at all that requires more of you, on top of this. Yeah.
Well, I thought with that was, again, going back to this idea that when you're in your window, you have capacity for compassion, connection, and curiosity. When you're in functional freeze, or again, an activated state, it's really hard to access that. And as a mom, I have lots of like parenting example, but if I'm in functional freeze or I'm in a fight flight state, the way that I respond to my children look and sound really different than how I would be if I were in my window.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that for most healers, like this is less likely to show up in their actual clinical work and more likely to show up in their personal life or in their internal world? Do you think that most of us are pretty good at compartmentalizing and we can get through the day just fine, but we're paying a price for it internally or in our home? And or do you think this also in fact impacts the clinical work itself?
Ooh, I think there's a both and.
Okay.
I think many of us are really good at compartmentalizing,
Yeah.
and doing that is overriding your nervous system. And I would wonder about, we may not be able to see it in the moment, but if we kind of step outside, this is where reflective practice can be really helpful. Wondering about what does it look like when I'm in my window as a therapist? How do I know that I'm there?
Oh, I love that.
How do I get curious? How do I stay connected? How do I stay compassionate for the people that I'm serving?
Mm,
And then ask yourself, when you're not in your window, how does that show up for me as a healer? What does that energy look like? What does that feel like? What does my tone sound like? How engaged am I? How curious am I? I know when I reflect on, I guess, pre-private practice, wow, when I was not in my window, the way that I supported families, yes, it was supportive. And there was also a different energy that went into it. It was kind of apathetic going into it. It was not a good feeling. Was I able to hide it? Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah.
The energy about it felt really different.
It's not right. It wasn't in alignment.
It
Yeah.
wasn't in alignment.
I love that question. Pay attention, reflect, and see if you can figure out and notice when you are in your window of tolerance. I love that. And when you're not. What does it feel like? What's the difference? And I do. The thing that popped into my head as you said that was in the early parts of my private practice when I was seeing lots of families and working with lots of teenagers. And there were times when I would have like, 2 adults and 2 or 3 kids in my office and somebody was really mad, and I was just trying to keep someone from stomping off and leaving the room. And it would have it like, I can't tell you how many times I've prayed in my head, like, all right, y'all help me out here because I don't know what I'm doing here. That kind of like, and the pressure to be the magician, the pressure to have all the answers, the pressure to know what to do when you don't. And when you don't, it takes a while to get the point where you have the confidence enough to say, I don't know here, and I don't have to know. If I can just be curious and connected, right? And calm, then we will figure it out. But there is that early on, there was a lot of that sense of like, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do here? I don't have that feeling anymore, hardly ever, really. But I
Yeah.
do remember a lot of those moments, right? So tell us what you have painted a really clear picture here, Rosanne, which I really appreciate. I love the theme that I'm hearing you come back to is we are overriding our nervous system when we push through in a way that is not true to us, that is not kind to us. And it's possible that in ways you don't even realize you are not as fully present for your clients as you think you are. And you're definitely paying a price for it physically, I guarantee you, in terms of your health, right? And emotionally. So talk to us about what do we do about that? Like, I love this thing about pay attention. Notice when you are in your window and you're not. That's a really, really helpful suggestion. What else can we do to do a better job of managing our own nervous system so that we can be there for our clients in a healthier way and for
Yeah.
ourselves? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great question. The first thing that's really, to me, the most important thing is growing your self awareness.
Mm,
Okay, so, growing your self awareness and being able to start paying attention to your body's messages,
mm,
your body's internal wisdom, right? So, becoming aware of even those moments, and awareness can be noticing physical things. Ooh, my hip is hurting. Oh, I'm just really tense in my shoulder.
yeah.
That's awareness, right? And often, most people say, yeah, that's where I carry my stress.
Yes.
And then that's it, right? So to me, those are your cues that our bodies are telling us that, hey, there's something going on here. There's a lot that you're holding. The next step is, well, what do I do with this? How do I notice, right? And so for me, a lot of the work has been even just noticing, say I'm at my desk and I'm either answering emails or creating content or whatever it is. If my focus starts to wane and I want to reach for my phone and start scrolling, that to me is a nervous system cue that says, you need to take a break.
Hmm.
You're overwhelmed or you have done the just right amount for now. And now you're reaching for your phone, which to
Yeah.
me is I'm losing focus. I'm stuck. I don't know where to go with this, or I don't want to do this. It's
Right.
on my to-do list for a long time. I don't want to, and so I go to
Yeah.
my phone.
Yeah.
That's a nervous system cue that's saying, I don't want to do this work. Whatever activation that is for you. And so noticing that and using that as a cue that it's time to reset. And reset might mean get up and get a glass of ice water. It might mean movement. It might mean breath work. It might mean stretch. I mean, what that looks like is so different for everyone. And that's why that awareness piece is so important. Most of us get through a whole day without even thinking about a reset.
100%. 100%, y'all. Please listen to this. Please listen to this because what Rosanna is saying here is golden. I see this in many of you. I have seen this for years. You push and you push and you push and you push. You do not have to do that. And it's not healthy to do that. It's not what you would want your clients to do. If nothing else, think about this as a model for them. I love this, Rosanne, that you can take moments to reset during the day. You don't have to do it at night with a bag of Cheetos and a bunch of Netflix. You can do it during the day in a way that you ended the day not depleted. Right? Yes. Love that.
1000%. Yes.
Yeah.
And most of us wait for a reset when we really need it. And then at that point, it's really hard to figure out what to do next.
Hmm.
And so I often talk to people about using reset, whether, again, breathing, movement, stretch, meditation, whatever it is, you're doing it when you don't need it. Because when you do those practices when you don't need it, you're kind of building muscle memory around, this feels really good. Breathing feels good. Ice water feels good. And then when you notice that your body is moving out of your window or shifting out of your window, you have muscle memory about, oh yeah, this stretch feels really good to me. I'm going to stop and I'm going to pause and do this.
So
Right?
you're saying do this before you get desperate. Like learn how to take these small breaks along the way and
Yeah,
and practice, develop a practice that
and
helps you.
practice.
A
And,
practice.
and using those small, like noticing that your focus is starting to wane, that small moment is a great moment for that reset because you don't really need it. That's why most of us keep pushing through. We're like, I can keep going. I can keep going. But that's a really great time to practice a lot of different reset drills so that you know what feels good and what your body needs.
So you've just said two things I want to capture. One is the concept of cues. The other one is you just said reset drills. Did I hear you right? Is that what you said? Reset drills.
I think I might have.
Practice reset drills. I mean, you did. I think that's what I heard anyway. You know, we have fire drills in school so that when there's a real fire, we know what to do, right? So a reset drill, practice the little things that are going to kind of like restore, replenish your energy in some way. And then when you really do need them, you know how to do it. But the other thing, the cues, this is the thing that you're saying that I think is especially helpful right now, is that what you're saying is pay attention to your own behavior. Notice the physical feeling in your body. I was lucky. I had a mentor in grad school, a professor who taught me to pay attention to what was going on physically when I was with clients as a cue. Like I could feel things in my body that were often would kind of give me a sense of what was going on with them. And I have actually used that quite effectively throughout my career. I have not thought about that as a cue to what's going on with me. I think about it with my clients. So, to pay attention to small aches and pains, little bits of tension, whatever, that's a cue. Pay attention to when you feel called to reach for your phone like that. The coach I used to work with called it the pocket pull. That when you are standing in line at, some fast food place and everybody pulls their pocket out, you're at the red light and you pull your pocket. She used to challenge us when you feel tempted to do the pocket pull, resist that and just sit in it for a moment and see what happens. And what I hear you saying is when you are engaged in an activity of some sort and you find yourself reaching for distraction, notice that it's a cue. It's a cue. It's your behavior is telling you something about what you need right now. What is this about? Am I avoiding something because it's uncomfortable? Or is my brain tired and I need a real break? I don't know what it is, but it's something. Notice. What are some other cues? Those are good ones. Physical symptoms, distraction, not being able to focus. Is there anything else that jumps out? Yeah.
I'm thinking, I work with a lot of therapists who work with families. And
Yeah.
so often they notice a tightness in their chest.
Mm,
They're looking at the clock. When do I get out of here? When are we done?
yes.
Uh,
Yes.
they're
Yeah.
finding themselves not falling asleep, but kind of just being bored in a session.
Yes. Yes.
They might feel flow, not knowing what to do next, right? And so all of those are cues. Motivation, energy, where you're noticing lots of energy, where you're noticing very little energy,
Yeah.
the cue.
Yeah. These are good. These are good. And the explanation behind them can be many things,
Exactly.
right? It can be lots of things the point that I think is important here is that your body is telling you there's something here to pay attention to. Once you notice it, then you can learn to work with it, figure out what to do with it. Some of those cues could be very much that you have been working too long without a break. You've had too many hours in a row, or you've been sitting too long. You need to get up and move. Absolutely. Get up, y'all, and turn on a YouTube dance video. Dance in your office for a minute. When I ran a group practice, I went and bought a picnic table and put it out on the back porch because I wanted people to come outside to eat their lunch. I like get outside and get some sunshine. We had a park just half a block away, and I would often go and walk the green belt on the park. So getting outside and so it could be just that physically you need a break. It could be this is really hard, this activity that I'm engaged in, like I'm writing content that I have to really think about and it's exhausting. Maybe you need an accountability partner. Maybe you need to do a little bit better job of breaking that task down into small bites that are more manageable. Maybe you need something like that. It could be that you're avoiding something because you're afraid of what's going to happen. You're going to upset somebody. Okay, so go talk to someone about that. Talk to a supervisor or a consultant or a coach or a mentor or just a good friend. I find myself putting this off. There's a reason. It doesn't like what these cues tell you will be different from one person to the next. But your point is your nervous system is going to alarm you or alert you, get your attention one way or another. Pay attention and respond. Right? Am I getting this right?
You are. Yeah.
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 Okay. I
And,
love this because you're right. We override ourselves all the freaking day long.
and because many of us, I mean, in this culture,
Yeah.
we are taught to do that. We are rewarded and praised for working hard, for overworking, for
Yeah.
working 80 hours a week, for pushing
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
So we're really praised for overriding. And that starts even as a young kid. When someone falls down, get up, you're fine. That's
Yes.
overriding. And they're like, I'm not fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we're given many messages in our lifetime
Mm-hmm.
for that overriding is good,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so for me, the learning journey has been, how to unlearn that and really stay in touch with what's coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a very American thing.
It is an American
It is
thing.
a very American thing. And I know nowadays you are hearing people say it's time to push back against the hustle culture, right? Like that is sort of a thing that's out there right now. But it is pretty firmly in our bloodstream as Americans. Work hard, don't complain. And you really see this when you travel in other countries. Like it is a very, very American way of doing things. And the rest of the world does not does not do it that way. But so we have that. It is in the air that we breathe, but also as healers, we are so tuned into service that we do so sometimes at peril to ourselves. And what I hear you saying is that if we can learn to recognize what our own personal, internal, and sometimes external cues are, oh, there's something here trying to get my attention. What is it? I need to figure this out and do something with it. That we will be better clinicians, we'll be better parents, we'll be better partners. Life will be a lot more fun. That's a good thing for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I've done supervision, I know you do clinical supervision as well. And when I've done supervision, I often talk to not clients, to clinicians about when you've got an upset client in front of you, to use mirror neurons to your advantage, like calm yourself down, slow your breathing down, lean back in your chair, uncross your arms, physically set up a scene that says everything is fine here and your clients will follow your lead. This is that to the next level. And I love it. I want to go look up some of these terms and learn about some of this a little bit. This is super cool. Window
Yeah.
of tolerance. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they went, well, that what you were just saying, mirror neurons, that's how nervous systems work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We mirror each other. And oftentimes, whether I'm in reflective practice or with a family, if I'm feeling overwhelmed and I can feel it in my body, I notice that out loud. And I will
Yeah.
use that as an invitation. I might put my hand on my chest, on my heart, and say, whew, I can feel that in my body. That's a lot.
Yes. Do you say that to a client? Would you say that to a client?
Yeah. To a
Yes.
client or an attorney
Yes.
or a social worker or a therapist and say, whew, I can feel that in my body. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will say, I'm going to take a moment to take a breath. I invite you to join me
Mm.
or, and, given an option not to.
Yeah.
And so that I can reset myself in the session, in that hour, that I'm not waiting to push through. Because then that's also modeling how we take care of ourselves, how we know
Yes.
what's coming up.
Yes. Yeah. That's incredibly powerful. That's a beautiful example. Who would think that you could do that? That you could model coping with intense feeling by acknowledging that you have it too. That's when I said I've used that effectively, I would say, I've got this sort of ache in my belly that is a very specific feeling I get when I'm nervous. And I'm wondering if you're feeling that too. And
Yeah.
often I would get a yes, I am. I'm like, let's breathe into that for a moment. Let's see what that's about, right? Whew.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's co-regulation.
That's totally what that is. Absolutely. Ha!
Exactly.
I just didn't call it that. But you're right. That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is. And I often tell people that our nervous systems are storytellers. The storyteller of how we move through the world, how we're feeling at any given moment and any given time.
Yeah. Yeah. Rosanne, thank you for this. This has been so good. I love seeing your face light up when you start talking. Like you can just tell, this is the thing, and that you believe so much in it, and it has made such a difference for you. I often, when we talk about ideal clients, I always say that we are the after of our clients before, right? This is
Yeah.
a beautiful example of exactly that. You've learned how to do this, and now you share it with so many others, and those who work with you are really lucky to have you in their life. I know that this is true. Yeah. I know you do sound, what is it, protocol? What is that?
Oh, the safe and sound
Safe and
protocol.
sound protocol. You do that. You do reflective practice. You do a consultation. You are beginning to speak now. You've spoken at some conferences, which is kind of fun. How, for folks who are interested in learning more about your work or who might want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to find you?
They can find me on my website. And
You want to say what that is?
I can, yes, that's Kavana, K-A-V as in violin, A-N-A hyphen consulting.com.
It's not her name. That's why I want her to say it. Kavana Consulting. We will put that in the show notes below for sure. Yeah.
That is where you can find out about my reflective practice, safe and sound protocol. I do a lot of neurosomatic work. I embed all of that into the work I do. And on my Instagram, which is at Ms. Rosanne Carter, MSROSANNE Carter, that's where you'll find a lot of the parenting pieces around regulation and co-regulation.
Awesome. At Ms. Rosanne Carter on Instagram. Awesome. That's great. And you are available, right, to work with people around the country now in terms of the colleagues, in terms of consulting, coaching, that kind of stuff. Yeah, you're available.
Yes.
I love it. Great. Y'all call her. This woman knows what she's doing. This is great. Thank you for that. Thank you for teaching me some things I didn't know. And some of this we do instinctively, and we just don't have the language for it. But I think the piece that you have said today that has really made an impression on me is that our tendency is to override our own internal nervous system. I do think that is really true. And I think that kind of captures a lot. So let's stop doing that. All right. I'd love to just ask you one more thing before we bring this to a close. Is there anything I have not asked you, anything we haven't covered, anything that you just feel called to share that would make this conversation complete?
Oh, I think we covered a lot. I think I'd love to maybe summarize, but just to remind everyone that your nervous system is the tool. And that when we stop overriding our own cues and we start honoring our body's messages and what it had to tell us, our work becomes more attuned, more ethical, more impactful. And to remind everyone that regulation is not a luxury, it's leadership. Right? It's what allows us to stay in this work long term without burning out, disconnecting, or losing our way.
Amen, sister. Preach.
Oh. Yeah.
Yes.
And it really starts with us.
It starts with us. Y'all rewind this just a little bit. Go back and listen to that again. Go back and listen to that. Yeah, it starts with us. Thank you. This is beautiful. Guys, I hope that this makes you think. I hope that if you relate and connect with the image that Rosanne has painted for us today of what happens when we don't listen to our nervous system, if you're the one finding yourself on the couch at the end of the day and you can barely move, like, you can do something about that. You can do something about that. And I think you have an ethical obligation to do something about that for your own self-care, for the health and well-being of those around you, and for your practice. Because this too is part of running an ideal practice. So with that, we will bring this to a close. Y'all have an awesome week. Pay attention to your cues this week and shoot me an email. Let me know what you learned, what you notice. Let's see if we can all learn from this together. I appreciate all of you. I hope you have a beautiful week, and I will see you next week right here on the Ideal Practice Podcast. Bye now. Hey, y'all. If this program has become important to you, if ideal practice matters, it would mean so much to me if you'd be willing to take just a minute to do one or two of the following things. First of all, would you follow or subscribe to the show here at Ideal Practice? Following me helps you because you'll never miss an episode, but it helps me as well for all kinds of reasons. To do that, all you have to do is go to the show page for Ideal Practice on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. There, just click on the plus sign that you'll usually find in the top right-hand corner, or click on the word follow that you're going to find somewhere there on that page. Of all the things, this really is the most important thing you can do for the podcast itself. While you're there, it would be extra special if you would be willing to give me a 5-star rating, and even better than that, a review with your own words. Your words matter. And when you write what you feel, what you think, you uplift and encourage others. And I love that. If you want to go a step further than that, take your favorite episode or two, one of the ones that has meant a lot to you, and share it with a friend. Could you do one or two of those things for me? I promise I will love you forever. You guys matter to me, and I value your support more than I can possibly say. Thank you, sweet friend, for anything you can do to help me out and support the show. I'll see you again soon.